Now, from the Super Doppler 10 Weather Center, this is a severe weather alert.
Good afternoon. We're breaking in for a tornado warning that's been issued for parts of Suffolk and Chesapeake. This is going to go to 4:15 this afternoon. Let's dive in real quickly and show you where this storm is and where the rotation is with this storm. If you are located anywhere just to the east of the Riddick-Lassiter Road, Skeetertown, here's Saunders, here's White Marsh Road. That's where the rotation is with this storm, quickly advancing up to the north and east. Now, what we're going to do here is we kind of analyze everything together is we're going to look at a couple different products. I'm looking at the velocity right now. This is the spin in the atmosphere. And now I want to switch you over to what we call correlation coefficient, or the debris in the atmosphere. What this does to us as meteorologists allows us to kind of analyze the storm and see if there's anything being lofted by a tornado on the ground. Because a lot of times what radar shows you is the velocity in the air. And we're not seeing any of that right now. Now, as we put a storm track on this, storm's moving off towards the northeast at roughly around 25 miles per hour. We're going to give you some locations that may be impacted by this possible tornado here in the city of Suffolk as we speak. So let me get our storm tracker and put it up to 25 miles per hour. We'll advance this off to the north and east, and I'm going to put it right off the rotation. So that's going to take it eventually into parts of Chesapeake, and then eventually, if it holds together, towards areas of 464 and where 13 and 58 starts to run west here into Suffolk. The Hampton Roads Airport is about right here. Thankfully, a lot of this is kind of in some western areas, a little bit more rural areas, but still an area where some people live. So this is going to put it towards the Grassfield area around 414 and the Chesapeake School around 415. As we look at this storm, it is one that has over the past about 30 minutes started to get its act together, started to rotate a little bit more than what it was earlier. Right where Whaleyville is where we kind of start to detect some of the rotation as it moved up to the north and east, and now we're seeing those greens and those reds right close to each other, and that tells us that there is some rotation in this storm and the possibility of the tornado. When you have greens and reds in the storm, you've got green going one direction, red going the other direction. Red is going away from the radar, green's going towards the radar, and what that's doing is it's creating some spin in the atmosphere, and that's where we can see that possible tornado. So zooming in close here, we'll see if we can pick off any other roads. Washington Ditch Road. This is the area over towards White Marsh Road. Once again, north and east of there is where this rotation is with this thunderstorm. So if you're in the southern side of the city of Suffolk or kind of the central western side of the city of Chesapeake, it's time to start thinking about where you're going to go as this storm approaches. For most places around our area, we don't have basements. So the safest place is your hallway, stairway, or a bathroom or a closet, because what that does is it puts as many of these exterior walls around you as possible. Tornadoes lift things up in the air. They throw things through the air. Those things can then hit the windows, break them, and that's what causes the damage and causes injuries in a lot of tornadoes. So we want you to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Put yourself towards the center part of your house on the lowest level. You have a two-story house, go down the first level. If you do have a basement or a den, go down there because you're going to provide yourself with more protection. Something else we've learned over the past couple of years is that if you have a helmet, bicycle, motorcycle helmet, football helmet, your kids play sports, go ahead and put that on because that allows you to protect your head once again. And if you're watching me and you're a kid who's at home and your parents aren't home, maybe they're at work and you're out for summer break and you're just watching us right now and you're thinking, hey, what do I need to do? First thing, you're going to be perfectly fine, but what we want you to do if you live in Chesapeake or Suffolk is to move to that safe place. Like I said, the center part of your house, away from windows, probably a bathtub or something like that in most homes, and just stay there for a little bit. Turn up the volume on your TV so you can still hear my voice, and as the storm pushes through Chesapeake and Suffolk, we'll keep you updated. Now, this is, like I said, kind of right over the swamp right now. Here's 58, here's 13. If you've driven along this, you know you look off towards the right as you're heading towards Portsmouth, all you see are trees. There's not a whole lot out here other than a bunch of bears in the southern portion of the Great Dismal Swamp. So thankfully, this is over an area where not a whole lot of people live right now, but it is tracking off towards the east, towards a higher population area. We want to make sure you're well informed of this storm as it pushes across the area. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to give you the kind of the big picture view of everything, and we'll put this into motion and show you where these storms are and where they are going to go. If you're watching us from the eastern shore, there's a line of thunderstorms that's approaching you right now that'll be moving in over the next 45 minutes to an hour. So expect some heavy rain, some gusty winds here, parts of Northampton County, Accomack County, as all of this moves up to the north and east. If you're watching us from northeast North Carolina, not a whole lot going on right now. Elizabeth City, a few little light rain showers around you. For the most part, that's about it. If you're watching us from Virginia Beach and parts of Chesapeake, Not a whole lot going on the eastern side of either of those cities, but obviously in the western side, that's where we have that tornado warning in effect. Zooming a little bit closer, giving you a picture of what's ongoing too across parts of Norfolk and Portsmouth. Tell you what, we've had some hefty storms move through Norfolk and Portsmouth. We've been able to hear the thunder and lightning here at our station over the last little bit, and we'll switch you over to Tower Cam 10. And as you can see, not much of a view anymore as that heavy rain is coming down onto the downtown area. And that's another problem with these storms. As they're moving through, they're producing a lot of heavy rain, and that's leading to some isolated flooding in a few spots. So if you're going to be out in the metro, if you're watching us from work and you're thinking, maybe I need to get home early, honestly, I'd probably just hang out for a little bit. I wouldn't decide now's the time to leave because you're going to be driving out into this, and that is going to not be too fun of a drive as you make your way back home and across our bridges and tunnels and overpasses and places like that. So resetting everything, it is 3:47. What we're doing is keeping you updated on a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado here just to the east of Skeetertown, moving really into the Great Dismal Swamp right now. So we're thankful it's moving into a lesser populated zone, but keeping a very close eye on this because this eventually will be tracking off away from the swamp, and that'll be moving into more of a heavily populated area, the parts of Chesapeake and maybe even portions of southern Portsmouth as it advances off to the north and east. This warning was triggered by some rotation that was right about here when we had the warning come out. So as we look at this, you notice it was a little stronger a minute ago. And what happens with the radar is the radar beam goes out, it hits the storm, it gives us data, bounces it back to the computer, it analyzes it, and then we get a new data scan. So what I'm doing right now is kind of comparing this and showing you, okay, it was here earlier, there was some decent rotation. Now let's advance it up to the current time and let's look at it. There's a little bit bigger of an area rotation. I'm seeing a little bit larger of an area rotation with this, and still certainly some indications of a possible tornado as it moves off towards the north and east. Once again, over a pretty loosely populated area right now, but eventually be moving into a heavier populated area. So what I want to do is I want to get a really big wide storm track on this and advance it up to the north and east and give you a heads up really over the next hour, if we can, where this storm may be heading. So patient first, 417, Portsmouth, if it holds together, eventually around 417 as well. The Buell area, 421, downtown Norfolk around 430, and the Glenwood area around 437. You can see here's patient first. You'd be first in line, the Buell area next. Here's where 664 comes down. Here's where 464 comes around and comes into the city of Chesapeake. So those are kind of the areas we're going to be watching. Likely this will go south of the Bowers Hill interchange, but got to watch this carefully as it moves up to the north and east. Sometimes these storms can get a little bit of a turn with them and take a little bit of a jog in one direction. So 3:50 p.m. here, if you're just joining us, what we're watching is a severe thunderstorm over the city of Chesapeake and the city of Suffolk. Currently, the area that we are watching for a possible tornado is over the city of Suffolk. And what I want to do is switch over to our radar and kind of point out a couple things and give you a perspective. If you're familiar with the Great Dismal Swamp, here's Lake Drummond. Here's where the rotation would be, right up here. So kind of the north and west of that, moving off towards the north and east. Here's West Landing, here's Wollaston, here's 17 as it runs south, and here's where the rotation would be, right up through here. So this will go mainly over the swamp and eventually make its way towards areas towards Grassfield and Deep Creek as it holds together a little bit over the next 45 minutes. Looking at the rotation again, a little bit weaker than what it was just about 15 to 20 minutes ago. There was where it was really strong, around 3:40 p.m. And now as we advance it off, about another 10 minutes or so has passed, still seeing the rotation, but not seeing as strong of a rotation as we did earlier. We'll switch this to a couple different products here. Once again, kind of looking at the different parts of the storm. This is our wind shear product, and that's not water right there. This is actually where the radar is detecting some wind shear or some spin in the atmosphere to the north and west of Lake Drummond once again. So we'll look at that. We'll switch over to what we call our hail risk product. And the storms today, while they could produce some really small hail, I don't think they're going to produce large hail like we would sometimes expect in a springtime thunderstorm setup. You may remember we had some storms, I think it was about a year and a half ago, that produced some very large hail in northeast North Carolina. Not expecting that today out of these storms. Look at the correlation coefficient, or what we could refer to as storm debris, and I'm not seeing any of that either with this storm, and we'll take it back in time and advance it, and looking at just kind of the overall path of where the rotation went, nothing jumping out there to me as any area where there could have been a tornado that touched down, mainly just the rotation aloft in this. So as we look at this storm, it is about 3:51, and this tornado warning is going to go for about another 20 minutes here, 25 minutes. We'll
That's over the Great Dismal Swamp right now, isn't it?
Yeah, meteorologist Don Slater joining us, and that's what we were saying. It's primarily over an area where there's not a whole lot of people, and there's a lot more trees than people.
No people over the Great Dismal Swamp whatsoever. It has shown signs of weakening, so we do want to let you know about that, that it is over the Great Dismal Swamp and showing signs of weakening. So that's some good news there. But regardless, that tornado warning remains in effect until 4:15 for the cities of Chesapeake and Suffolk. Suffolk, really, you're in the clear. It's out over the Great Dismal Swamp in terms of the worst part of this storm system. Maybe you can do a little, show the velocity product once more and the movement of everything. You can show the weakening of it just in the past hour. It was a bright green as it moved on eastward right through there, but now it's not quite so bright. So I think we're looking a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you know, we kind of got lucky with where this popped up. As you mentioned, there's not a whole lot of people out there. And now as the storm weakens a little bit, we're starting to see a lesser threat of this storm as it advances off towards the east. Now, having said that, these storms can cycle, and we do remain under a tornado watch until 7 p.m. this evening. So we want to watch all these storms carefully. But that's really the main game in town right now. We don't have a whole lot of other action going on. There was a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Bertie County, and this is now to this south of Edenton. So if you're watching us from there, looking off towards the Albemarle, you'll likely see some heavy rain and some stormy weather. But that storm has also moved over the water, so no threat with that over any land masses right now. Take you to the north once again and kind of give you a reset of what's happening. We are watching this area of storminess approaching the southern side here, the eastern shore, towards Cape Charles, towards Nassawadox, all this advancing up your direction. The peninsula, we had some storms earlier. Now that has moved out. You're clear in the peninsula area. It's Norfolk and into Portsmouth where we continue to see some of the heavy rain and also the potential of some isolated flooding in a few spots from these storms. So that's the main area of concern right now. None of this across Norfolk and Portsmouth is technically severe, but you could get some 30, maybe some 40-mile-per-hour gust out of this, and also the potential for some heavy rain. Don?
We're looking at velocity on that, and we are detecting some areas that are 35, 40 miles an hour. And also out over the bay, you can see those little notches through there. Out over the bay, you can see widespread wind going on, likely well over 40 miles an hour, all the way on up into Mobjack Bay, toward the eastern shore as well. So 40, 45 mile an hour wind gusts would not be out of the a range of possibility, or even a little bit higher into some of those areas. So we'll have to watch that. Farther southwestward, if you'll move down a little bit farther on the velocity, again, we're seeing some areas, little areas. It doesn't look like farther southwestward, again, little tiny areas out ahead of the warning. Right, there we go. Right on into there. That's where we're starting to see some little areas of wind going on as well.
So that is something to watch here over the next little bit as this moves through parts of Norfolk and Portsmouth and downtown Norfolk. You may have seen popping up on the screen there as Don and I were talking a flash flood warning. So let's get you some information on that. That flash flood warning is for parts of Portsmouth, Suffolk, and Norfolk. It was the area earlier that had a flood advisory, and now as the rain continues to fall, they've upgraded this to a flash flood warning. And here's why. You look at the amount of rain that we've had over the last little bit, and it's anywhere between around 2 to almost 3 inches of rain, especially right here towards the Harborview area. Here's where 664 and the Monitor Merrimack run. Here's where 17 comes across a Harborview right around here. A lot of those new buildings and shopping centers and stuff they built, that's where some of the heaviest rain has fallen. And if you've lived in downtown Norfolk for any amount of time, you know it doesn't take a whole lot of rain to cause some issues across Norfolk. Heavy rain coming down there, some about anywhere between 1 and 3 inches of rain as that storm has moved through. And you still have some rain that's falling across those areas too. So as we continue to watch some of these storms push through these areas, we'll have to watch for the potential of some heavy rain and flooding. And as I kind of said earlier, you know, it's 3:56. A lot of people are maybe at work and they're thinking, should I just go ahead and leave now? I would just wait it out another 45 minutes or if you can, because the problem is it's not going to get much better for the next 30 minutes. So if you can just hang out for a little bit of time, maybe catch up on something you put off and just hang out with us here and watch Wavy News 10 starting at 4 in just a few minutes. I think once we get past maybe 4:30, a lot of this will clear out of the metro area, at least Norfolk, Portsmouth, and you'll have a much nicer drive home, at least weather-wise. Can't include traffic in that.
If we could switch over to Max 1 just real briefly. I want to show you that area of greatest wind, and you will be able to see that on velocity. And I've got a storm track for you to give you an idea of when that's moving into some general areas. You can see it toward West Landing at 4:02, Bells Mill at 4:15, Great Bridge 420 basically, Fentress area at around 425, Centerville Waterway Marina at 426, and 434 toward the Glenwood area. That area is still showing. It's out of the Great Dismal Swamp right now, so it's not affecting a single human being right now. It's out over it's affecting deer and wildlife, but again, it's nothing real big. It's not huge, but it is still surviving into these areas. Also, as long as I've got it here, Steve Fondero is sitting beside me as well, and pointing out that we can, this has just been updated just to drop Suffolk off the map here, but we can see on up toward Portsmouth and downtown Norfolk. We're also seeing, again, some possibility of a little bit of wind moving into Portsmouth. It says 22 on up toward Avalon, 28 miles an hour. So there a little bit of rotation out of that area that's east and southeast. You know, the green area that we're looking at to the southeast of downtown Norfolk, where it says downtown Norfolk. That particular area, there could be a little bit of wind circulation right on into here as it rotates counterclockwise. We want to watch that one for further development. I'll erase everything off of here just for a minute here, and we'll slide around and give you an idea of what's going on with this. This particular area, again, over the Great Dismal Swamp. We'll just show you the last half hour of movement, or last 15 minutes of movement, and show you what it's been doing. And I'll slow it down for you here, so get it super slow, so you give an idea of what has been going on with this thing. It's still showing life, and as it moves on eastward, we'll stop motion on it for you right now, show you what's going on. And again, I'll storm track that for you. I'll slide things over and storm track that for you. It does look indeed like there could be a tornado out of that area as it moves eastward, generally at about 25 miles an hour. Great Bridge, you're in the sights of this one. That's a highly populated area. That's a particular area that's of a great concern. Chesapeake Airport at 408, Bells Mill at 416. 420 at Great Bridge, Fentress 425, 434 at Glenwood. And we've got to give a station ID here for you, let you know that Wavy News 10 at 4 is now beginning. We're crossing that threshold in the next 30 seconds. Ricky, that's what's going on in terms of that particular area. It's still holding tight. Yeah. It is going to hit the Grassfield area really pretty soon. That would be at 409 as it moves eastward at about 25, 30 miles an hour.
And that's the thing, Don. That's why we've been on the air here, because while it hasn't been over an area that's highly populated, now it's moving into areas where a lot more people live. So we'll see if the Weather Service continues this tornado warning or advances it up to the north and east as it approaches the Grassfield area. But certainly a concern as we go over the next 15 minutes or so as the storm moves into parts of Suffolk. If we can switch over to Max 2, we'll dive back into my computer here and we'll show you where everything is going to be advancing up to over the next little bit. 4 o'clock now on the dot as we continue to watch this tornado warning for parts of Chesapeake. I'll put another storm track on this, and we're going to place it just ahead of where the area rotation is and advance it up towards Grassfield. So Hugo Owens Middle School, just a little bit of time, about 10 minutes or so before it moves into there. Millville, 4:15, Patient First, 4:15, and the Bells Mill area around 4:17 for this possible tornado moving through parts of the city of Chesapeake. The rotation is certainly still there, as Don has been saying. It is a little bit broader, but still, this has been our best rotation signature that we've seen in our area through the day, and it is continued over the last 45 minutes or so as it's moved across parts of Chesapeake and Suffolk. I don't believe we have a view from Tower Cam at all, but we'll switch it over to Tower Cam. And Steve, if there's any way we could kind of turn Tower Cam one maybe back to the south. I think all we're going to see is rain right now, so not a whole lot of to see there. But a lot of the heavy rain coming down into the Portsmouth area, Norfolk area right now.
There should be a lot of lightning out of that area as well. There's been a big buildup of lightning over downtown Norfolk area, and that can be indicative of a strengthening of the storm as it lifts on northeastward. And there is some rotation toward about the Ingleside area, where we're seeing some rotation to the east-southeast of Norfolk, of downtown Norfolk right now, where that green and the red meet. It's a a broad rotation there, but there could be some wind, and we could see some buildup of that area right on into there coming on up. Of course, the main area and we're seeing a huge buildup of lightning through that region right now, so that's highly indicative of a strengthening situation there right now. You can see a cluster of lightning basically over downtown Norfolk, but it's farther east from there that we're toward Ingleside, where we're likely seeing a little bit of rotation. Of course, the biggest stuff is right down on down toward the Great Dismal Swamp in Chesapeake. Suffolk has been dropped from that tornado warning. That tornado warning in effect for Chesapeake until 4:15. Grassfield area, if you got your kids are at home, make sure you know where the kids are. In the Grassfield area especially, get to an interior room or closet. Cover your head. There you go. Get under a sturdy piece of furniture, a couch or a real thick dining room table. Stay away from windows and flying debris. So again, if you got a hallway, a bathroom is good if it's an interior bathroom because there's extra carpentry around to account for the pipes in there. But we of course have no basements to speak of in this part of the world. But again, an interior room usually on the away from the southwest side of your house, usually because it's moving in from the southwest to northeast. Get people off the second floor. If you got a kid taking a nap, a child taking a nap on the second floor, you're taking a nap on the second floor. Get down to the first floor. You could, even if your house isn't damaged, you could see a tree come down nearby, and that tree is of course going to hit the second floor first and hopefully stop before it gets any further. So again, you want to keep that kind of thing in mind because again, we do have that tornado warning in effect, especially for the Grassfield area and Deep Creek area. You do want to watch out right on into these areas. That's where things are moving now toward Grassfield especially. But Deep Creek, again, that tornado warning in effect until 4:15, and we are still seeing a circulation there. Are we seeing anything on CC going on at all out of this? Any kind of debris that's being lifted?
Nothing particular, no.
No, it doesn't look like it.
On CC, no. Nothing compared to what was shown way out towards the west earlier today. And this is again, like you mentioned,
this is Steve Fondero, by the way.
Still hanging here with you guys again over the swamp, but moving into that Grassfield Chesapeake area here. This thing is good. I mean, it's packing a punch. And also, if you're not under this warning, the thunderstorms that are developing as we zoom out, we've been talking about this, do have little inflow notches, so to speak. They've got some little pockets that are producing some winds to 30, 40 miles an hour across the metro with lots of lightning and things like that. If we could flip over to Max 3, Chris Tate, when we're back there, that would be helpful. We could see what's going on with my computer, with my Max here. Again, a lot of lightning over this 264-64 interchange here in Norfolk. That's indication that some thunderstorm activity is strengthening. Don mentioned that as well. The main focus, though, of course, is the tornado warning, the rotation with the tornado warning that is now exiting the Great Dismal Swamp, and it's soon going to cross right over, look at that, right over 17 there, and it's eventually going to get to the Mill Creek Parkway, Scenic Parkway, right through Grassfield, the Bells Mill Park down that way. Great spot to take the dog, let them run around. But this is a good area where there is plenty of people living here and enjoying a Wednesday afternoon and enjoying a Wednesday thunderstorm, but there's going to be some potentially damaging wind on the way. Now, if we look at a bit of a clarity in terms of our velocity, what we're looking at is the rotation right over that 17 and that 17
George Washington Highway.
George Washington Highway.
Yeah, right along the canal. There's the brand new tornado warning. That tornado warning has been extended eastward, I would assume, until 4:30. So again, we've got that brand new tornado warning as that lifts on northeastward at about 25 miles an hour. So again, this is indeed a dangerous situation because this thing is hanging tough. It's moving now out of the Great Dismal Swamp. It's basically near the canal at George Washington Highway. I believe they call it Carolina Road as you're moving down through there. But anyway, it's George Washington Highway right next to this canal. So again, there are some areas. Campsville, if it survives that long, it'll be 438. But Great Bridge, you're in the sites of this, or just north of Great Bridge. Certainly Grassfield, you should be taking every precaution coming up right now for your area. Again, and here's where we are toward number 10 lane,
Herring Ditch Road. That's Drumcastle Lane as well, Checker Spot Way. Sorry, I got a little better view here of the street roads here, Don, because my face is two inches from the screen here. Chesterfield Loop, Deer Crossing, Scenic Parkway in Grassfield. Now it's time to get into that safe spot, get away from the windows, the lowest level of your home, again, away from the windows. The area of rotation that is potentially producing a tornado is crossing the George Washington Highway, and that's going right into the 17 corridor, number 10 lane. That's Scenic Parkway in Grassfield, headed right through there, and it eventually is going to get out towards the Bells Mill area, Country Club Boulevard in Bells Mill. We've got
highly populated areas, obviously, through here, as you can see again, see all the roads going on there.
Something that I like to point out sometimes, Steve and Don, is that, you know, obviously if they're watching us, they're watching TV, but a lot of people probably are not. And if you have family or friends down in this area, send them a text or give them a phone call. If you know they live in some of these roads we're calling out, maybe they're sleeping, maybe they're just watching something else or doing something else. So give them a phone call, say, hey, heads up, did you know there's a possible tornado heading towards Great Bridge? And that's one way that you can help us alert people ahead of this storm as it moves off towards the east.
Yeah, it's right on in over the Grassfield area any second here. It's 4:07. We were earlier predicting that it would be 4:09. Well, I think it's moving in on you right now. So again, in the next couple of minutes, Grassfield area, again, really going to get socked by this. Obviously, lots and lots of people here. Not so many people here. Was out of the Great Dismal Swamp as it moves generally east-northeastward at about 35 miles an hour. And it's not showing huge winds. It's showing 40, 45 mile an hour winds, but there's rotation there. So there could be a very, very tiny area where we could indeed see a tornado out of this. So again, we'll want to watch for this real carefully. Into the Grassfield area. Again, as it lifts east-northeastward toward Grassfield, Great Bridge should be in there as well. Great Bridge, you're going to want to watch out for that. Essex Meadows, some of these areas. Again, there is Great Bridge. You're going to be real close to that. It could be just north of your area, but very close by. What is it? Bells Mill, Oak Grove. So highly populated areas, densely populated areas. This area right on into here, moving east-northeastward at about 25 miles an hour. There is Deep Creek to give you a point of view, and there is Grassfield to give you an idea where things are right now. And again, the possible tornadoes located right on into here and moving east-northeastward at about 25, 30 miles an hour. Again, probably a little bit more south of those arrows. I think it's probably even just north of, the direction not quite as northeast, a little bit more east-northeast in terms of its direction of movement. So perhaps a little bit more like this toward about Oak Grove, because the direction that thing has been moving now over the past half an hour or so.
Kind of wobbling a little bit, Don.
Yeah,
it's going to be drifting a little bit this way. So Great Bridge, Oak Grove. I mean, downstream, I mean, you got 168. That's a huge corridor, highly populated area. Downstream, of course, is the Greenbrier area. All right, so we're just getting into more and more of a populated area here. And this thing, I mean, it has held together. So, I mean, I haven't seen it weaken, that much. So good indications that this thing is going to hold together here over the next 30
and this is a fresh
minutes.
scan. This is a fresh scan here. It's looking just as strong, if not stronger now, in this fresh scan in terms of what we're looking at for this storm and its movement again to the northeast to east-northeast at about 25 miles an hour. So again, that tornado warning in effect for Chesapeake now until 4:30 in the afternoon, and Grassfield, it's about over the top of you or the south edge of Grassfield. And again, that's lifting east-northeastward at about 25 miles an hour. If we could widen it out, maybe just show the movement over the past half hour, give us an idea of where this thing is going and how strong it's going. Widen the picture out just a little bit and slow it. There we are. Again, generally east-northeastward. Again, there we can see as we just kind of the scrubber bar, taking the scrubber bar to it, just kind of slowly going through it. Again, it's just moved on through Route 17 back into populated areas off the Great Dismal Swamp. There's George Washington Highway, Route 17, go southward toward Elizabeth City, and right on into here again toward the Grassfield area. That's where we're likely seeing the worst of it. Yeah, there is an area down here, certainly not as bad. Steve Fondero just pointed that out, that has a little bit of circulation as well. Watching out for that. There are areas of wind that we're seeing up into here, It looks to be what, toward Norfolk? Well, no, actually that's in 464 meeting 64. There's Norfolk on up into here. So again, those are some areas where that has some circulation with it too. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a closer look at that to show you what's going on those areas. That does appear to have some circulation, as does this into Norfolk. So toward Kempsville and Davis Corners. Kempsville, obviously highly populated. There could be some strong winds going on into there, some localized strong winds out of those areas. You'll note kind of a little bit of a curlicue shape to some of this action moving on through. But this is the biggest area right there where we're seeing the red and the green in close conjunction and really, really definitely hitting the Grassfield area right now, or it has been hitting the Grassfield area here in the past 5-10 minutes. On down toward some of these roads that we've got. Are we seeing any debris? Nothing definite. Let's, can we set the debris CC into motion a little bit, see if we can see anything, any kind of pattern there? Not really. You know, what we're looking at here is we're looking for a pattern, some kind of a little cluster going on where it's picked up debris, leaves and junk out of it. No, we're not seeing that going out of it. Let's go back to velocity, and again, that's the biggest thing that we can see in terms of wind going on. Moving eastward out of the Grassfield area now.
Bells Mills is up next.
Yeah, Bells Mill.
165 corridor there. Bells Mill Road, Country Club Boulevard, Waters Road. Listen out some roads here just in the Bells Mill area.
Yeah, this is Route 17 right
Parkway.
there.
Yep, 17's right there. 17 meets 165. Eagle Point Way, you're living in that neighborhood. Chalet Road, Washington Drive. Shillelagh, sorry. Shillelagh.
Oscar Smith High School down that area as well. Another area to kind of be aware of as this is pushing up your direction. South of 464 interchange, Steel Bridge, great bridge area, obviously, we've been pointing out. And if we could take Max 2 for a second, I want to point out, now, this storm's had a history of rotation as it moved across the swamp, and you can kind of see it. It really started back in Suffolk and now has made its way all the way into parts of Chesapeake. And now as we start to watch this moving into a bigger populated area, that's where our concern really starts to kind of get heightened on as this moves into these heavier populated areas. Yeah,
areas near Great Bridge and really Grassfield and Deep Creek as well. You can see the movement again of this storm generally east northeastward on up toward the Great Bridge area. On radar, regular radar, it's got heavy rainfall, but there's nothing real definite about it in terms of seeing rotation on the radar part of it. In terms of the rainfall part of it, certainly some heavy rain going on, and farther south some heavy rain toward the Chesapeake Airport and Cornland, the Ballahack Road area. But once we get on to seeing what's going on in terms of velocity, yeah, we've definitely got some problems there going on where green meets red into the Grassfield area. We're seeing again the probability of again some really strong winds, if not an out tornado.
And that's the problem. You mentioned the rain with this. It's if there's a tornado with this, it's likely a rain-wrapped tornado. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to go outside and see if I can see this thing, you're not going to see anything.
No.
All you're going to see is a big wall of water coming at you before the strong gusty winds start knocking down trees.
Looks even worse than this scan just came out.
New scan that just came in here and just south of Bells Mill Road. And remember, radar beams are a couple thousand feet up, so this could be maybe a street or two over from where this actually is. So while we're calling out these specific roads, if you are familiar with any of these roads around you, it's time to seek shelter. Don't just think we're going to pinpoint this exactly down to your street. It may be just a couple streets over because sometimes radar can be off a little bit. So anywhere in this area is where you're going to be wanting to seek shelter. Bells Mill especially. Yep.
There's Great Bridge right into here as well. So again, right on through these areas, right on into here is where we're going to really see some problems. Bells Mill, there's Battlefield Boulevard. I mean, highly trafficked area on up Greystone Lane. I'm not sure what that road is right there, but that's got to be a main road as well.
That is the Chesapeake Turnpike.
It is the Chesapeake Turnpike. Okay, it is a main road.
Or Centerville Turnpike, excuse me.
Centerville Turnpike. So again, there's Elbow Road right on into here. There's Essex Meadows. So again, these areas, there's Chesapeake Expressway north of 64 right here. So again, these areas highly trafficked and highly populated areas. Do not leave the house. It's not the time to go driving. And if you're at work, or doing something else and you're away from this area, or even if you're in this area, do not move. Sit tight. There's heavy, heavy rainfall. And again, this is really, really a dynamic situation where we are seeing, again, this tornado warning and a real strong indicator of a tornado right on down into here. Just moved eastward from Grassfield. It's likely into the Great Bridge area, just north of Great Bridge area, in a neighborhood right into here called Bell's Mill. That particular area, again, we're going to see some problems there. Likely some downed trees and power lines, at least, if not an out-and-out tornado out of this area. Oak Grove area, highly populated. It's about over Bell's Mill right now. Again, moving east-northeastward at about 25 miles an hour. So again, this particular area is likely to produce some damaging winds, if not a small tornado. And usually I'd say short-lived tornado, but no, this has been around for a while. It survived. It started in eastern Suffolk, went all the way across the Great Dismal Swamp, came through the Great Dismal Swamp, of course, near the Grassfield area, and now here we are toward Oak Grove, looking at some problems there, quite likely in the near future, if not already. And you can see Battlefield Boulevard right through here, highly traveled area, highly populated area. Again, we can see some serious problems. Stay home, know where the kids are, know where your family is, and make sure that they know about this and know to get in the center part of their house.
I'll give you some locations. This could be near the Chesapeake Arboretum, the Greenbrier Christian Academy, Chesapeake Pediatrics over off Clearfield Avenue, Kempsville Road area. There's an American Legion post down in that region near Oak Grove. The Great Bridge locks are not too far from where this is located, just towards Bell's Mill as well. So if you're watching us anywhere near River Oak Church, Center Point Community Church, let's find some other spots in here. The Chesapeake Regional Medical Center, a little bit further up the road here, but that's in the general vicinity. Also, areas off towards the east include Greenbrier KinderCare. There's a park, Chesapeake City Park, not too far from this area, and the Green Tree Road area along Kempsville Road. So any of these areas, those are the spots where if you heard me call out your location, if you are familiar with any of those neighborhoods, you'll want to be seeking shelter. As we've kind of said before, that's going to be the lowest level of your house, centermost part of your house. Cover yourself with blankets or a mattress or pillows or a bicycle, motorcycle helmet, a football helmet. A lot of kids have that bike helmet, learning how to ride a bike. Throw it on. It protects your head when you're out learning how to ride a bike. Same thing in the event of strong winds and strong types of severe weather. If the tornado lofts anything through the air and it goes flying through the air, it'll protect you if it were to hit you in the head. But that's the key. And a lot of times when you go to these safe places, you may be further away from your TV. So go ahead and turn that volume up on your TV or tune over to wavy.com. We are live streaming there. If you're watching us, though, on Hulu or like YouTube TV or something like that, and we're saying the tornado is over Oak Grove, got to keep in mind these streaming services have a little bit of a delay on them. It can be anywhere between around a minute to almost 2 minutes of a delay. So while we're giving you these estimated times of arrivals and we're saying the tornado is located towards Great Bridge, that's as I speak, and by the time it hits you, it's about a minute or two delayed. So you want to make sure you're seeking shelter ahead of this storm as it makes its way up to the north and east, and not waiting for us to say it's right over your neighborhood right now, because that's when it's too late to seek shelter. Great Bridge, just literally seconds before it moves into your area. Oak Grove, about a minute or so, less than that now. Greenbrier Christian Academy, 422. Glenwood area, 435. And we've got Salem Middle School further up to the north and east. That's going to be about 436, about 15 minutes before it reaches Salem Middle School. So now is the time, if you're watching us from the Acredale area, the Glenwood area, to go ahead and think, where's my safe spot? Lowest floor, interior room, hallway, bathroom, closet? Maybe I should go get into that and seek shelter as the storm advances up to the north and east. Giving you a reset here real quick of everything. If you're watching us from the Eastern Shore and you're saying, hey, what about us? Well, yeah, it's stormy, it's probably loud, it's heavy rain coming down there. Nothing severe, though, across Northampton County. We're likely going to see some gusty winds with this, perhaps some wind gusts in some of the brighter colors up to around 40 or 50 miles per hour, and that's enough to down some trees, but we're not seeing the threat of a tornado right now on the Eastern Shore. But still, some strong winds, some lightning. You want to make sure you're indoors. If you're watching us from Virginia Beach and you got the alert on your phone, you haven't been hearing us talk a whole lot about Virginia Beach because the storm is currently over Great Bridge in Chesapeake and not over your area yet. However, it's moving that direction. So if this storm maintains its strength, eventually we're going to be talking about areas towards Lansdowne, eventually all the way up over into the southern portion of Virginia Beach. Here's where 264 runs. Kind of south of there would be our primary area of concern. Kind of near NES Oceana, too, would be a spot we're going to have to watch carefully as this storm moves off towards the east. So switching back to the velocity product, seeing what we have in terms of rotation with this, still right over Oak Grove is where there's likely some spin in the atmosphere. We switched the correlation coefficient product to see if there's any debris, and still not seeing anything. And we haven't really seen anything with this, and that's good news over the past 45 minutes to an hour as it's moved off towards the east. But these tornadoes can spin up quickly, and it doesn't take much, especially on a very humid day like this, to mix some of that wind to the ground. The cloud bases, if you watched as the storms have moved through the area today, or if you saw on Tower Cam 10 earlier around 3:20 when we were showing you that, the cloud bases were almost scraping the ground. So these clouds are very, very low to the ground, and on these very humid days, they're able to tap into what we call a low LCL, or a low cloud level, and sometimes bring this rotation down the surface a little bit easier. So Oak Grove is the area of most concern right now. Greenstone Lane, or Greystone Lane, Elbow Road, areas near the Centerville Turnpike, Volvo Parkway, Battlefield Boulevard is pretty much right over you as we speak, advancing up to the north and east. So that'll put it towards the Glenwood area, the Chesapeake Park area, the areas towards the St. Andrews condominiums, Greenbrier East, anywhere kind of in that vicinity. Stumpy Lake Country Club, Stumpy Lake Natural Area, City View Park in parts of Chesapeake, and eventually, this is likely to stay south of Regent University, but it's really the Greenbrier area where we have to watch for this storm to move through. Meteorologist Jeff Edmondson is watching this as well with us, not in the studio, but watching this at his house, and he reported in parts of Chesapeake some gusty winds, very intense rainfall. He's about 3 miles or so away from where this rotation actually is. So thankfully he's in a safe spot and no damage at his house as this storm pushed through. But for a lot of Chesapeake, this is a very heavily populated area, and an area where a lot of people are getting these alerts on their phones and wondering what's going on. So we want to make sure you're informed as to what's happening here. If you are watching us, as I mentioned earlier, from Virginia Beach towards the Lansdowne area, the Mapleton area, even Kempsville. Kempsville, I think this will likely go to your south. I'm not as worried on the far northern area towards Indian River Park, Kempsville. I think we can pretty much say you're going to be in the clear for this, but it's the Glenwood area especially where we have to watch as this storm moves off towards the east, and eventually the Lansdowne area where that rotation is going to be continuing to move off towards the east and northeast. And as we've been on the air now for about 40 minutes or so, and we've been watching these storms as they kind of moved over the swamp and rotated a little bit, weakened some of the rotation, strengthened back up. That's something that you will likely hear and see us show you, because these storms cycle. They move through an area. Sometimes the rotation gets a little weaker. Sometimes it then gets a little bit stronger. And even though we're saying, hey, it's a little bit weaker right now, until this warning expires, until this red box clears off the screen, you want to make sure you stay weather aware and make sure you're seeking shelter, especially in the Glenwood area as this moves off towards the east. Meteorologist Steve Pandera joining me now here to talk a little bit about what he's seeing.
Yeah, just on the spot, right? I mean, where this area rotation is right now is this Butt Station right on the Kempsville or Kempsville Road here, and that, I mean, if you live near the Butcher right here, which is Central Meats, if you live right around the Garden Center, which is on the corner of Butt Station and Kempsville, Chesapeake City Park is right here as well. Get to that safe place. Now, as we move forward in time out towards Elbow Road here and right ahead of Glenville, this is Stumpy Lake, so this starts to open up a little bit, and across Elbow Road there's new developments, so there's a little bit open areas, and a situation like this, a thunderstorm like this, can tap into the fact that there's less friction down on the ground, there's less around, and it could see some further strengthening, and that could potentially be where it wants to go. So it could head south of the Acredale area. It'll likely head south of City View Park in Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. This is right around here, right on the Chesapeake City Park, or excuse me, the Chesapeake and Virginia Beach border, right around here. So it's likely going to head essentially on Volvo right towards the Butcher, which is Central Meats, which is right there on the there's the intersection there with the Harris Teeter as well. There's a Royal Farms gas station near there as well from Centerville that goes down. So it's that little corridor, and in between there could be some further strengthening, Ricky, because it kind of opens up a little bit. It gets out of some of the buildings that are down towards the Battlefield area and parts of the Greenbrier area. So a little bit of strengthening could be possible, as it likely heads more so on an easterly track here, which would put Glenwood coming up next on that area here. So, but again, if you're on the right along Kempsville here, again, I'm just going to use the Butcher as a reference there. If folks live down there, they know that's the best spot to get chicken wings. That's where Jeff, that's where we go all the time to get chicken or any sort of pork or sausage and stuff like that. So if you're in this area, Chesapeake City Park as well, now's the time to just take that shelter, get to that safe place down on the low end, and if you're along Elbow Road as well, because then that crosses up towards Centerville, and that's where likely the storm's going to head off and cross over that in what, 10 minutes or so? Not even.
Yeah, you're gonna have to invite me next time out to these great places you keep calling out.
We never work the same schedule.
I know.
Ricky,
You can tell
I can never have you over for a barbecue or something.
Steve and Jeff know the area, Chesapeake, very well. I'm from the peninsula. I know that area just a little bit better. And of course, meteorologist Don Slater has been here for many, many years and seems to know every little community and every neighborhood around the area. So
okay, but let's go to Max 2. We'll kind of give you a broad overview. And then we'll come back on down to this area where we are seeing, again, a tornado warning for the city of Chesapeake. Let's go to Max 1, please, and we'll give an idea of what's going on with that, if we could, to our director. Here's a look at 3:30 this afternoon and some of the rainfall moving on into our Picture-Our Tower Cam on a time-lapse basis. You can see between 3:30 and now lots and lots of blinding rain. For most of us, here's what's going on in terms of the threat. The threat is damaging wind, flooding rains, and there's, of course, that threat of an isolated tornado. We do have one tornado out there. We're watching that, obviously, very, very carefully. One other thing to note out of all of this is that it is caused basically by a low-pressure area, a broader low-pressure area into here. You'll be able to see some spin moving on through the region. It's a broader area of low pressure, and that spin is setting in motion, again, the severe thunderstorms, which have caused some stronger thunderstorms, and the one tornado that we've got going on into southern Chesapeake, and again, central Chesapeake, really, and that warning is in effect now until 4:30 in the afternoon. We dive on in for a closer view. You can see some very, very big lightning action going on into extreme southern Chesapeake toward Northwest River Park, the Hickory area south of the municipal center, where we're seeing some action going on into here. But we move a little bit farther northward between Great Bridge and Fentress Field, and I'm going to switch over to give you an idea of what's going on in terms of velocity. And again, that's where we're seeing it between east of Great Bridge right now and on toward Fentress Field. That's where we're seeing the worst of it. We're seeing the green and the red meet on up. We'll give you a little bit different view of that. And there, we'll switch colors on you and give you an idea. So just north of Fentress Field, basically, Stumpy Lake area, lots of new developments on into here. And it's likely to move on into parts of Virginia Beach. So with that in mind, I'm going to storm track this for you on a broad area. Kempsville, I think you're going to be okay. Lansdowne, you need to be taking precautions right now because, again, Lansdowne, you are in the sights of this thing as it moves on. I'm going to move this over so it's out over the water and near Sandbridge. But again, we've got flash flood warning. Again, that one's been extended a bit, again, for the very heavy rainfall that we've seen. You can see toward the aquarium, being a tourista in town near the south end of Virginia Beach, south of 264. Again, it'll be around 10 to 5 when you start to see some real action into your area, or quarter to 5. And it is what? It's 4:30 right now. So in the next 15 minutes, we're going to start to see some of these areas. 4:32 for the Centera Princess Anne Hospital, Lansdowne. There's Nemo at 4:40. Dam Neck Corner at 4:45, a familiar area. 4:49 at Sandbridge. 4:51 at the Virginia Aquarium, and Rudy Heights at 4:53. So again, there could be some strong damaging winds out of all of this. And with everything that's going on, there's been a lot of lightning out of some of these areas, but you can especially see the lightning over the southern end of Chesapeake. That's where we have the biggest lightning right now, but some lightning going on right into the resort strip of Virginia Beach. We're not looking at as bad as far as seeing a lot of wind out of some of these areas. Let's have a look at what's going on in terms of watching. We're seeing some wind, but it does, and there could be some there's rotation headed into Lansdowne on that area. Doesn't look quite as bad as what we had earlier. So is that warning been discontinued?
Yeah,
warning?
they did. They extended it to a severe thunderstorm warning.
There we go. It's just popping up, and that's until what? I'm assuming
5:15.
5:15.
And we also have that flash flood warning that's going up for the northern parts of Virginia Beach that has been issued. We have the one in Norfolk and Portsmouth, and Ricky's got some of the cams up from I believe that is that 64 or 264. There's, I mean, if they're driving around, there's been some folks have been caught in some water and caused some issues in downtown Norfolk.
This is this is the Ballantyne area, and you know, as we were talking earlier, if you could just stick around for 30 more minutes at work and let these storms pass, it's probably a good idea, because we look at the VDOT maps and we look at some of the issues going on. There are traffic snarls and crashes, and Stephanie Hudson was talking about how some people have been stuck in floodwaters across parts of Norfolk, and as the Weather Service has issued this new flash flood warning now for a large part of Virginia Beach, it's these areas that we've seen 1, 2, 3 inches of rain, especially across Norfolk. It doesn't even take that sometimes to cause flooding, and we've had such heavy amounts of rain over the past about week to week and a half in some areas, 2.5 inches, almost 3 inches of rain right over downtown Norfolk. That'll cause some problems. So you know that it doesn't take much to cause issues around our area, and when we get 3 inches of rain in about an hour, that's going to cause some problems across our roadways. So if you can just stick around, you know, for another 30, 40 minutes or so, let some of this rain pass, let some of the traffic maybe lighten up a little bit. You can see the rain has now moved out of downtown Norfolk and downtown Portsmouth, so we're doing better. It's Virginia Beach and the eastern side of Chesapeake where all this heavy rain is coming down. And some of these rainfall rates are impressive too. I'll turn that on, and you'll notice anywhere we have these pink colors showing up, that's a rainfall rate of over 3 inches per hour. Now, if the storm were to sit there for an hour, that's how much rain you would get. You're probably going to not see exactly that much, but the fact of the matter is that rain's coming down at an incredibly heavy rate. You just don't see anything out your windshield. It's not a fun drive. So don't travel on 264 for the next 30 minutes or so if you can. Just hang out towards the ocean front, hang out towards your office in Virginia Beach, your house in Virginia Beach. Give it 30 minutes, 45 minutes to pass, then you'll be good. Weather-wise, travel, can't promise traffic. That's probably not going to be fun, but at least weather-wise, you'll be doing a little better with the heavy rain lightening up across those areas. So we've got this big severe thunderstorm warning now, guys, that's been issued here for Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. I think very soon we can probably give a lot of Chesapeake an all clear. It's really the far southern side of Chesapeake where we still have some winds going on here towards the Hickory area, towards Northwest River Park, eventually moving into the Blackwater area, Virginia Beach. And then this other area towards Lansdowne, which is where we were watching the rotation earlier. Now it's
still some
weaker.
rotation.
There's still some, I believe, Don, but I think, you know, maybe we're transitioning more to like a wind threat or a downburst threat with this, which a lot of people focus on the tornado threat, but these microbursts, they can be just as damaging as they push across the area, and they can sometimes bring these strong gusty winds. And what a microburst is, what happens is there's dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, so the air cools down in the thunderstorm. As it cools, it gets a little denser, it gets heavier, the storm no longer can sustain it anymore, and it comes crashing down to the surface and then spreads out as it does so. Think of it like a water balloon. That's my favorite comparison. Think of a water balloon, you drop it on the ground, the water spreads out in a circle. Same kind of thing with these microbursts from a thunderstorm, and you can get these strong gusty winds sometimes in a bigger area than what a tornado would do. So when we issue these severe thunderstorm warnings, when we're talking about these severe thunderstorm warnings, you still want to take those seriously. Even though they're not tornado warnings, they can still cause some significant problems as these strong gusty winds occur in these thunderstorms. And in terms of the flooding risk, kind of just give you some numbers here. It doesn't take a whole lot of water to cause problems either. 6 inches of fast-moving water. Most of the time around here, we don't have fast-moving water because our land's flat, but 6 inches of water can cause some issues with an adult. 12 inches of water can cause some issues with cars. And a lot of times, our water just has so much stuff in it, debris, chemicals, pet waste. It's just not fun to be in. Don't let your kids play in floodwaters. I know that we've seen plenty of videos over the years. Don't let them play in floodwaters. It's not safe water to be in. It's just nasty water overall. As these storms also push across the area, we encourage you, if you can do so safely, to send us some pictures. You can email them to reportit@wavy.com. You can tag us on Twitter. A couple things we ask. First off, include your name so we can give you credit, a brief description of kind of where it is or what you believe it is, and then the location. That way it allows us to kind of sometimes go back and look at the radar and be like, oh, that's what the radar looked like at the time this picture was taken, and those reports can significantly help us tell the weather story and, of course, alert people ahead as these storms push through. So as we continue here at 4:35, the tornado warning has been dropped, but we continue to watch the severe thunderstorm warning across the portions of Virginia Beach, basically from 264 area south towards Lansdowne, towards Oceana, towards Sandbridge. You're in line for this area of thunderstorm activity as it moves off towards the east. In terms of lightning, we'll turn that on and see how many lightning strikes we're indicating with this. And we had a
Ricky, there's a lot out there. That's
yeah.
we were listing off some of the threats with the thunderstorm. I wanted to denote that even if you're not under a severe thunderstorm warning and you've got a lot of lightning, look up towards the eastern shore as well. If we zoom out the picture, there is so much lightning moving offshore, and one bolt of lightning is over 5 times hotter than the temperature on the surface of the sun, so it could also produce damage. Also, further down to the south, Ricky, there's one thunderstorm over the Albemarle Sound, which has been producing copious amounts of lightning, not in our viewing area. Been looking to see if there's been some sort of rotation with it, and it could get some sort of rotation since it's over the Sound. It's been so humid in North Carolina today. Dew points have been close to 80 degrees, which is just so buoyant, so to speak. The air can lift so easily. So heads up for those in Kill Devil Hills down towards Nags Head. There's just there's one thunderstorm on the way, but Southern Shores, Kill Devil Hills, Manio, the Outer Banks. I mean, you've been enjoying a nice beach day down there, but in a little bit, I mean, not in a few minutes, but maybe 20, 30, 45 minutes, thunderstorm's going to be rolling in. It could pack a punch here, and it could pick up some steam as it heads over the Sound and is over the water.
Yeah, certainly with lightning.
Kill Devil Hills area about 521 for the estimated storm track on this. Manio 524 and Nags Head around 530 as this area to the west over the Albemarle starts to push off towards the east and eventually makes its way. You'll probably see it coming, the darker skies in the distance, although today's kind of a hazy day. It's kind of hard to see some of these storms as they're pushing across the area, but you're likely going to see some of the heavy rain and gusty winds with this storm as it pushes into your area. Still watching a couple areas here in Virginia Beach. There's one area towards Chesapeake. The rotation, there's a little bit, but it's really lessened up, I think, from what we had earlier, which is great news there. No reports of any tornado touchdown that we've heard of in Chesapeake or Suffolk with this. If you do have any damage reports, send them over to us, report it at wavy.com. We'll check it out and see what may have happened down there, and our news crew is doing the same, seeing if there's any type of damage in that area. But as of right now, have not heard of any issues. It's really just this heavy rain that's coming down now across Virginia Beach that's causing problems and causing some potential flooding in the area. I'm going to see if we can load up our camera at the Lessner Bridge, and it may take a second for it to come in, but there's the view from the northern side of the city of Virginia Beach towards Shore Drive. Here's Shore Drive as it runs across the Lynn Haven Inlet area, and you can see no one out on the beach, which is great news right now as heavy rain and lightning pushes through, but obviously bad visibility as that heavy rain comes down across the area. We'll switch over as well to the camera located here at the ocean front, or excuse me, let's go towards our town center camera first, then we'll try to jump down towards the ocean front. This is the town center area of Virginia Beach. You can see some of the lower hanging clouds here. Not as much heavy rain right now in the town center area, but certainly you've seen some rain. You're going to see a little bit more as this shower and storm area pushes through. And then let's see if we can pop up, find the right camera here. Our camera located down towards 5th Street at the boardwalk. This is towards areas towards Rudy Inlet. This is the waterman's camera. You can see, thankfully, no one on the beach as the storm pushes across the area, and as the heavy rain falls, you'll be able to get out in a little bit, but for about the next 30 minutes to an hour, good idea to stay inside as the storm pushes through. They have a nice lightning show too after the storms push off the coast and make their way into the Atlantic Ocean. So as we kind of reset everything here, 4:38, we'll keep an eye on these storms in Virginia Beach and monitor them as they push across the area. Still seeing some gusty winds. We'll see how strong the radar is indicating these winds to be. It's picking up around 20 to 30 miles per hour, but with these microbursts, remember, radar is an instantaneous moment in time. As that radar beam, you just saw it sweep around, goes out. These microbursts can occur sometimes quickly in between the minute or 2 or 3 minutes that it takes for us to get a little bit more data in here with these radar loops. So that's what we have to watch for to see if they want to, if we're detecting any areas of wind sometimes still on this storm as they push across the region. So we'll switch back over to our reflectivity product, talk about the heavy rain, and once again recap that we have flash flood warnings in effect for parts of Norfolk and Virginia Beach. That's going to be a concern for the next couple of hours, all the way till 7:30. Some of the water may kind of go down before that, but a lot of those areas where we sometimes see flooding in these urban areas, these low-lying roads, places like that, we're likely going to see some flooding as these thunderstorms push through and have pushed through parts of Norfolk, producing 2 to 3 inches of rain over the last little bit of time as they've advanced across the area. So we will continue to watch these storms, especially as they make their way into the into the area. We'll keep an eye on some of the winds with these storms as they push across the region as well, and also keep an eye on the lightning. That's probably the biggest concern, just the heavy rain and lightning and the problems that we're seeing on the roads in terms of some of the problems that are being caused by this heavy rain as it falls down. This is towards the Ballantyne area. Once again, you can see this poor folk here in their car crash reported there. That's not what we want to have happen to you. Just stick around for a little bit, especially in Virginia Beach. Give the weather a little bit of time to clear, and we'll keep you updated on the storms as they continue to push across the region. That tornado watch remains in effect until 7 p.m., but for the most part, we are seeing less storms across the metro. I do note out towards the west, though, we're seeing a little bit more development along the 95 corridor, so we'll have to watch that over the next hour to 2 hours as these storms advance towards the east. Hopefully, our atmosphere has been kind of worked over a little bit, and we're not going to see as much action as this does push off towards the east. But Northampton County, heads up, this is moving your direction towards the Weldon area. And this is kind of the area further south and west towards Rocky Mount, where we had some very strong severe weather earlier. The Weather Service in Raleigh confirming an EF2 tornado towards parts of Nash County, North Carolina, a little bit earlier today. So we'll have updates on that, and we'll have updates on more of the storms as they push across our area here as we continue with Wavy News 10 at 4. Meteorologist Don Slater will join me in just a minute, and we'll talk about the potential for more showers and storms as we go through the evening hours. A couple things to keep in mind: those flash flood warnings for Norfolk and Virginia Beach, that severe thunderstorm warning for Virginia Beach. If you're watching us from the ocean front, that storm, you probably can't see too much of it right now, but heads up, it's heading your direction. Potentially some gusty winds upwards of around 50 to 60 miles per hour, especially from parts of 27th Street south towards the 1st Street and the Sandbridge area as these storms push through. We'll join you now in just a minute with Wavy News 10 at 4.
Now, from the station on your side, this is Wavy